Hi, this is Timur Dar with The Beat, chatting with Jason Aaron about the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles relaunch. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. In your introduction to the recent Scrooge McDuck one-shot, you talked about how reading the original Carl Barks comics was experience you shared with your son.
Right.
And occurred to me, Ninja Turtles is something at this point, 40th anniversary, it is a very generational thing. I know you go back to the Mirage comics.
Right.
I grew up with the 90s, the cartoon, the live action films. I'd love to know if Ninja Turtles has been a part of your son growing up in his childhood at all.
That's a good question. I think no. I think he's, we read all those Don Rosa books, like you said, and he loves Uncle Scrooge. But I've been doing comics his entire life. Like literally, I quit my last day job right when he was born. So I think some of it is he's grown up with that stuff in the house all the time. So even though that's what I do, and I think that's a pretty cool job, I'm still his dad. So at some point that becomes not cool. So he's been, he's found his own stuff that appeals to him. I think a lot of that being a dad if he's now 19 years old, about to start college, a lot of that funnels into kind of like what I'm doing in the pages of this new Turtles book, because the Turtles are kind of at that same point in their life where they've been through a lot, but they're still teens, still growing and developing, and they hit the point where they're kind of growing in 4 different directions.
The Turtles have pretty much remained fairly consistent. There's a baseline of the way, Raph's the hothead, Leo's the leader, Mikey's the party dude. For the last 10 years, IDW has built up this great continuity. Like I said, you go back to the Mirage comics. I'd love to know your familiarity with the IDW continuity and how much you had to go back or research in approaching this project.
Yeah, I mean, I'd been a fan from the original days. I was kind of coming into my own as a comic book fan in the mid '80s when the Turtles exploded, and I was a big part of that. That whole indie explosion was a big part of me becoming a lifelong comic book fan, and ultimately wanted to write comics. And Turtles were so much at the forefront, and that book felt so different from everything else that was on the stands. Right? It felt very raw and punk rock and gritty, and felt like just 2 young dudes doing the book that they wanted to do that really nobody else wanted to publish, that went in so many different crazy directions. And so that spoke to me and resonated with me as a kid, and just as a fan. Like I was kind of there for the IDW book from the get-go. As soon as that launched, was reading that book and enjoying it and love. I think it always appeals to me, just as somebody who does this for a living, when you have characters like that have been around for so long and able to be reinvented and stay relevant to so many different moments in time and different generations. And Turtles have done that so many times over the last 40 years, right? So I appreciate that, and appreciated just how good that IDW book has been by Tom Waltz and Kevin Eastman and Sophie Campbell. Like, there's so much good stuff that IDW has done. So I was kind of already a fan of that stuff. Never really thought like, oh, someday I'd like to write the Turtles. Like, I think so much of the biggest stuff I've done in comics as a writer was not things that I was walking around saying, oh, I just want to write Thor, I just want to write Turtles. And things that kind of came along and opportunities that popped up at the right moment in time, and that I realized, I think I have something to say with these characters. And then I did go back and reread a lot of those old issues to kind of figure out, what my Turtles story would be.
Tony, I remember at a Spotlight panel a year or 2 ago, you were talking about writing the Star Wars books. One particular issue, you had Luke Skywalker fishing, and Lucasfilm said, no, you can't have it because they're having him fishing in The Last Jedi, and they didn't want to repeat a similar story beat. Obviously, with these kind of licensed comics, you're working with Nickelodeon, Viacom. Let me know any restrictions or things you've encountered when writing the Ninja Turtles book.
No. I mean, it's been a really fun, easy experience. I think part of my job, whoever I'm working with, whether that's Marvel or it is a licensed property, there's always, you're working with the people who know those characters better than anybody, and it's their job to kind of shepherd them and safeguard them. So I'm used to kind of working within those parameters. The story we're doing in Turtles in this new book is very much kind of word for word the story I pitched. This is like my original draft, my original outline, my original thought. Like we're doing everything, that I originally came up with. So nothing's really changed, and it's been really easy and fun so far.
So the first issue has just come out. As we saw at the end, there's a ongoing plot line with a election in New York City.
Right.
It's being 2024, I'm sure politics and election is on everyone's mind. I'd love to know, maybe too political, but I'd love to know if the current political climate has influenced your writing on that front.
I think the easy answer is to say no, that I'm not trying to make this a political statement kind of book. This is still the Ninja Turtles, and it's meant to be a fun story, and I think this is meant to be a book that's like an escape from the news in the world outside. That said, the story is called Return to New York, right? And New York is such a fundamental, foundational part of who the Turtles are and where they came from in that original book. So this is about going back to that original Mirage Studios series in some ways, but as part of going back to New York, it's about, this is about the New York of today as opposed to the New York of the 1980s. So some of it is rooted in sort of my own relationship with New York. And when I was reading that original series, I was growing up in the boondocks of Alabama, and New York seemed like it was a million miles away. And because of comics, I've spent a lot of time in New York. I used to go there 3-4 times a year, and I've come to love the city. So some of it's writing about, my opinion of modern day New York City. I think that's part of it, which also kind of shows just how things have changed for the Turtles and how they find themselves in kind of a new world these days, and figuring out how they relate to each other and how they relate to the world around them.
As I said, 40th anniversary of Ninja Turtles. I love in the IDW comics how they've brought in so much concepts and characters from all the different media, the toys, the cartoons I loved, but at the same time creating new characters. Love to know if anything old that you're bringing in for the first time, or anything new you're creating for your run.
Yeah, with this book, we're very much trying to focus on the core cast. I want to focus in on the brothers, and the extended cast of the Turtles universe will still be a part of like the overall IDW publishing plan, and you'll see a lot of different books that kind of focus on different parts of that world. This book, we want to be new reader friendly. Like, it doesn't matter if you've read a single Turtles comic, if you know who these guys are at all. If I do my job right, everything you need is on the page of this comic, right? So we just want to focus on them, and then we'll slowly expand the cast as we go. And part of that, is the main new characters, the new villain that we tease a little bit at the end of issue 1, and issue 5 will be his origin story, and we see what he's up to. And he's a new character, but he's also deeply connected to the Foot Clan and to Turtles lore and history.
I know a question you've been flooded with, asked frequently. The fifth Ninja Turtle, Jenica. I know you said you haven't gotten her. She's definitely part of the book eventually. What can you tease when we'll be seeing her again?
Yeah, she's not in this new series, but like I said, the IDW has a big overall publishing plan for the Turtles, and there are multiple books that are launching, and we will absolutely see Jenica. I'm not going to tell you where or in what context, but she will be a big part of what's to come and the future of the Turtles publishing.
Anything you want to tease about after the 4 issues?
Well, yeah, like I said, the first 4 issues focus on each one of the brothers, each one drawn by a different, amazing A-list, top-tier artist. You get Joel Jones on issue 1, Raphael Albuquerque on 2, Cliff Chang on 3, Chris Burnham on 4. Issue 5 after that focuses on the new bad guy, this new guy who's running for district attorney of New York City, and that one's drawn by Derek Robertson. And then after that, issue 6, which we haven't really talked about much, is kind of when we see after the 4 brothers have gone their way and gone their separate ways, and they've each been in different crazy situations, when they start to come back together, and we see, the sparks fly from how do these pieces fit together, in this new day and age.
Jason, it's been an immense pleasure chatting with you as a Turtles fan. I think it's a really exciting year. I can't wait to see what the future holds.
Cheers, thanks.
Thanks.